Hello and welcome to another video on my web API.NET Basics. And you know what? It is raining out there, and it is always a good feeling when it rains. It's so comfy and it gives you a pleasant feeling of happiness that you really need, especially when occasionally you might be facing some personal problems and stuff like that. I know I'm facing a lot of personal problems all the time, and the rain always seems to make things a little lighten up. Anyway, so enough with my personal stuff. So welcome to another video in my web API.NET Basics series, and in this one we are continuing to give quick introduction to all the tools that I'll be using in this tutorial series. And today I want to talk about the developer tools in browsers. Now, during our development we are building web APIs. We are also building web apps, which means we will be, whatever you build, when you run them, they will run in your browser. We are building web apps often. We are building cloud native apps. We are building web apps. They need to be deployed somewhere, and whatever you build will eventually be accessed in a browser. So browsers play a very, very essential tool in your developer life. So what are the browsers that I use and I'll be using and you'll be seeing as well? So I use Edge for daily use. So whenever I'm trying to show you something like an article or Microsoft Learn or something, I know, like for example, whenever I have to do some Azure portal stuff, then I will go use login on Microsoft Edge and stuff like that. Now whenever I'm doing Firefox, so what I want to do is whenever I'm doing the debugging, web app debugging, web API debugging, console logging and stuff like that, I use Firefox mostly. Okay, but I also use Chrome. Every now and then I feel like sometimes Firefox doesn't seem to work as expected. Like the other day I was just building a very simple app, a translation service, translates text from one language to another. It was working fine, and then out of the blue, for some reason, the Swagger UI stopped working, the web app stopped working, and I thought, okay, I must have made a mistake. For a few seconds before that happened, I for a second I lost concentration, just for a second, and I thought I pressed something on my keyboard, but there were no build errors, there was no running errors, but I thought I messed up. I thought I made a mistake, so I got worried because it was working fine all day, and it was also late in the evening. It was already like 7:30 or something. Like I was, my body was exhausted and I was tired, and I lost interest and lost concentration for 2 seconds, and I must have pressed something. And then Firefox stopped giving the output. It wasn't working for the backend thing. It wasn't working for the front end thing. And then I opened another project. It wasn't working for then as well. I did my usual process of elimination. And eventually I realized, wait a second. Could it be, I thought maybe it was a Visual Studio problem, because Visual Studio does have some stability issues sometimes. So I quit Visual Studio, tried again, no output. I restarted the computer, checked again, no output, and then again the process of elimination. And eventually I had a small, by then my suspicions, my next logical step was maybe it's a browser issue, and Firefox does misbehave occasionally. So I went back to my project, which is working just fine, and then I opened the output. I changed the browser to Chrome, and the output showed up. And then I switched back to Firefox. For some reason that day the output wasn't working, but of course now today the Firefox is working again. So I don't know what happened. I don't know, but I at this point in my life, after almost 25 years of playing around with computers, and you start expecting weird things to happen for no reason. You just gotta accept it. It's part of life, right? Just like in life, you have unexpected things happening, both good and bad things. In developer life as well, you can expect things. Even in computers, you may feel like computers are just zeros and ones and they can't make mistakes, but they do so many times. Things do go wrong in computers as well, and then there's not much you can do about it, right? So anyway, so there you go. So I use Edge. I use Firefox for I use Edge for daily things, email, portal and stuff like that. That is my main browser for when I'm coding. When I'm doing debugging, I use Firefox mostly, but every now and then I get this hunch, there's no reason for it. I feel like something is not right with Firefox. I switch to Chrome right away. And of course, for everything else, there are some things which are nothing to do with my daily use. There are some things which are nothing to do with developer work. I need another browser. For example, my YouTube channel, the video uploading, managing the YouTube account, checking the analytics and stuff like that. That part of my life, I don't want to mix it up with Edge I don't want to use it on Firefox. I don't want to mix it up in Chrome. I want to keep my YouTube live completely separate on a separate browser. Okay, so for that I use Opera. And anything else that I'm doing which doesn't fall into these categories, again I use Opera. So these are the 4 browsers I use in my daily life. You might see me using it frequently in these tutorial videos, so it's better if you also have it. But then again, this is mostly a request. Okay, if you just want to use one browser for everything, it's up to you. If there is a specific brand, like I personally am a huge Microsoft fan, so I use Edge constantly, but you might be a Firefox person, you might prefer Chrome. Chrome is obviously the most popular browser today, or you could use Opera. Like I just use all of 4 of them. You could also do the same, or you could use whatever you like. It doesn't matter really, as long as the coding and the work gets done. So there you go, that's all there is to it, and that's a wrap.